Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, of course, I thought that I would give my little fight preview, my fight breakdown, and my fight prediction of the Jamaine Ortiz versus Vasyl Lomachenko fight that is going to be occurring this weekend. For those of you that may call yourself Vasyl Lomachenko fans, or for those of you that may be watching this fight this weekend overall and you really like watching Lomachenko fight, this is going to be a very particularly interesting contest because Lomachenko, I don't believe, has fought ever since that of last year. And I believe that the last fight that he was in was, of course, against the former multiple time champion of the world, Richard Comey, who, of course, I'm not really sure if he's going to win another belt at this point in time in his career. But I probably would still state that, was still a B grade fighter when Lomachenko fought him. And, of course, he was able to stop Nakatani, the first one to ever stop Nakatani, who, of course, was able to beat Felix Verdejo, the former very decent Puerto Rican contender, within, I believe, the 130 or 135 pound weight classes. Either one or maybe he competed in both. I can't remember. But anyways, Vasyl Lomachenko. This is going to be a very particularly interesting fight, and I always enjoy watching Lomachenko. I think that Lomachenko, in my opinion, still is one of the most skilled and still one of the most dominant and best fighters in the world. However, that being said, and I've stated this already within a multitude of times, right now he cannot be on my top 10 pound for pound list. It's not that, in my opinion, it's not debatable whatsoever, but I personally don't have him there, at least at the moment, because he does not have any belts at the moment. And on top of that, the last big 50-50 fight that you were in, you ended up losing. In my opinion, you didn't adjust well enough, and you pretty much gave the first half of the fight to Mr. Teofimo Lopez, where I thought that he could have performed a decent amount better. But it just is what it is. But of course, Lomachenko, in my opinion, ever since then, has been a little bit on the right track. And now, of course, that leads us to the fight against the undefeated prospect, Jamaine Ortiz. And what do I personally think about this fight? Who do I think is going to win the fight? In my view, more than likely, I think that Vasyl Lomachenko is going to win the fight. I think that Jamaine Ortiz is a very decently talented prospect, but I think that his defense, in my opinion, is just a little bit too much of lacking. He keeps his hands down a lot. A lot of the combinations that he throws, he's throwing without either one or sometimes both hands up when he needs to. Of course, both hands, not when he's throwing. But a lot of the times, overall, even when he backs up or is trying to get out of range, a lot of the times he will not keep his hands up. And that is a problem with a certain amount of boxers out there. And one thing that Lomachenko always gets credit for, in my opinion, and deserves to get credit for, is that 99% of the time his hands are always up. He's always trying to feint you out. He's always overall trying to give you a different angle. However, this is going to be a very particularly interesting comeback fight because, in my opinion, Jamaine Ortiz, he is no pushover. This is not a dude that, in my opinion, overall, you just want to completely get into the ring with when you've been out for pretty much a year. Now, I can't remember specifically when's the last time Lomachenko fought, but I believe that it was in 2021. If I'm wrong about that, someone correct me, but the last fight I remember him being in was against Richard Comey, which was a very great performance, but, this is going to be very particularly interesting. Jamaine Ortiz, of course, is coming off of a very decent win, at least the biggest win of his career, in Jamel Herring. I don't think that Jamel Herring, in my opinion, was ever really an A-grade fighter, but for an undefeated prospect that doesn't even have 20 fights on his record, it is a very big confidence booster. And that's one thing I'll also say about Jamaine Ortiz as well. He is coming into this fight expecting to possibly win. This is going to be a very confident fighter. This is not a fighter that is just going to completely roll over. And that is not me alleging that any of the former opponents in Lomachenko's career were just going to, roll over. For him not having even 20 fights in his career, Lomachenko has one hell of a resume. However, this is going to be particularly interesting because this guy is going to be decently speedy. He's going to be decently slick. And he's also going to have a reach advantage over Lomachenko, which, a lot of guys tend to have over Lomachenko. But this guy, I believe, has a 69-inch reach. I believe that more than likely what Lomachenko is trying to do is in order to possibly prepare for either Shakur Stevenson or that of Devin Haney, that he's trying to almost put himself in there. I'm not going to say with a clone, but someone overall who fights a little bit similarly, someone that the majority of the time is going to be on the back foot, try to peck and jab and use his speed overall to his advantage. So I think that this actually is the perfect type of tune-up fight. Now, what do I think overall is going to happen in this fight? I think Lomachenko, more than likely, in my opinion, is going to win this fight by decision. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Lomachenko ended up winning it by knockout, but Jamaine Ortiz still is the bigger guy. And from what I've seen from Lomachenko within the past couple of fights, of course, it's not that it's impossible for him to stop some of these guys, and everyone that he's in the ring with, whether they're a decent amount bigger than him or not, he always ends up hurting. I actually think that Lomachenko's power is usually very decently underrated. But I do have to say, in my opinion, more than likely, he probably will not get the stoppage. Lomachenko at 135, because of the size differences and also because of the reach, and since they tend to be, because of Lomachenko's size and his reach being only 65 and a half inches, because they're a little bit harder to hit, he's not able to get in usually as many hits as what he once was, or get the same angles in on some of those fighters as he once was. And that's why the knockout rate has dropped a little bit overall. And that's why he's had a little bit of a tougher time at 135, which of course is normal. But I predict that Lomachenko is going to win this by decision. I just think that he's going to be a little bit too defensively responsible. I think that he's going to get the right angles on Jamaine Ortiz. I think that Lomachenko's athleticism combined with his defense and his movement will more than likely prove himself to be the winner at the end of the day. Now, what's also going to be very interesting is maybe overall could Jamaine Ortiz take advantage of his height and reach advantage. I think that he is going to try to be on the back foot and outbox Lomachenko. Do I think that he's going to be very successful? I think that he'll have certain rounds to where he'll be successful, especially maybe a little bit earlier on in the fight or maybe a little bit later on, depending overall where Lomachenko's stamina is, because once again, he hasn't fought in a very long time. And on top of that, I believe that he's about 35 years old, so Lomachenko is getting up there a little bit in age. It's going to be very interesting to see what Lomachenko is able to do. If Jamaine Ortiz, in my opinion, wants to beat Lomachenko, he'll have to stick that jab in his face the whole entire time. Also give Lomachenko certain angles, try to give him a taste of his own medicine, go to the body early, especially with a good right hook or right uppercut, establish distance early overall and push the pace. Lomachenko sometimes does have a bit of a problem with the lengthier and the bigger fighters. He's always had a little bit, of troubles at 135 because he's just not really in his natural weight class. But that can pretty much happen to any fighter that is out of the weight class. Lomachenko still is a spectacular fighter even at 135. But there is certain things that maybe Ortiz could do. I just don't think that he has enough ability, in my opinion, to beat that of a Lomachenko. What will Lomachenko have to do, in my opinion? Basically what he usually always does. Go to an early body attack. Try to get in there. Try to get in certain angles. Keep your hands up overall. Try to feint the kid out. More than likely, he's going to come forward at you a lot and try to get you with certain combinations. And a lot of the times throughout those combinations, he will not keep his hands up, or he will not keep a certain hand up. And Lomachenko, more than likely, is going to be able to knock him down once or twice in this fight, or overall catch him with a good left hand straight down the pipe, or overall catch him with a certain amount of punches. And he's also going to have to cut off the ring a decent amount in this fight, go to the body attack early, and then overall go up with a head attack, go up, to the face. Then you might be able to stop him a little bit later on. But in my opinion, Lomachenko, in my view, is going to win this fight. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up winning by knockout, but just because, in my opinion, the knockout rate has dropped a little bit at 135, I do have to say that more than likely, I think Jamaine Ortiz will have enough to survive the fight. I predict that Lomachenko will probably win this about 9 rounds to 3, maybe 8 rounds to 4. I'm going to say 9 rounds to 3 by unanimous decision. But, you just never know overall what is going to happen. And speaking about the potential of after this fight, even though Jamaine Ortiz is a little bit flawed, I certainly do think that he is a very good contender for Lomachenko to face. I'll say this, I certainly find him to be more of a challenge than what Isaac Pitbull Cruz was for Gervonta, or at least proposed to be, and certainly better than Rolando Romero. Because Jamaine Ortiz actually has certain boxing ability. I just think that he's a little bit too flawed, in my opinion, to be considered as one of the top 3 guys within 135. But he still is very decently talented. And if Lomachenko does end up winning this fight, these next few years of his career are going to be very particularly interesting. Because the fights that are more than likely going to present themselves to him is going to be more than likely one of 3 fights. It's going to be the Devin Haney fight, the Shakur Stevenson fight, and it's also going to be the Gervonta Tank Davis fights. Hopefully, overall, Lomachenko will get presented those fights. And then we'll truly get to see how great he actually is. Can Lomachenko actually beat those guys? Can he actually beat someone like a Shakur Stevenson or a Gervonta Tank Davis? Devin Haney, in my opinion, he could potentially win that fight, but it's a very, very rough and rugged fight against Devin Haney, in my opinion, for Lomachenko. Because you're going to be facing a fighter that in my opinion, is A grade, and on top of that, almost has a damn near 7-inch reach advantage over you. So it's going to be very particularly interesting to see how that fight would go out. But Lomachenko, if he is going to face those fighters, especially someone like a Devin Haney who's a little bit lengthier than him, he's going to have to overall learn that sometimes he's just going to get hit and sometimes he's going to have to deal with it. That doesn't mean that you need to run into straight shots or anything like that. But at times, Lomachenko's going to have to start a bit quicker, or once he realizes what the opponent is trying to do, he cannot wait them out like what he did against Teofimo Lopez. And I think that Lomachenko understands that because within his last couple of fights, I really haven't even seen them win certain rounds. So that's overall very impressive from Vasyl Lomachenko. I think that he has adjusted actually to a decent deal ever since the Teofimo Lopez loss, but that will only truly overall be revealed if and when he fights Devin Haney or Stevenson or Gervonta Tank Davis. And I think maybe losing to Devin Haney just because of the size difference could potentially be acceptable. But if Lomachenko does get the fights over Shakur Stevenson or Gervonta Tank Davis, if you're as great as what a lot of people try to allege that you are, including me at one point in time, you have to win those fights. You have to. So it is what it is. But it's going to be very particularly interesting. These next few years are going to be very interesting for Lomachenko because, in my opinion, he has to take care of his advantages right now. He doesn't have that much longer. His type of style, his offensive style, and the amount of pressure and the movement and the athleticism that he puts on his type of opponents, he's overall going to have to take advantage in these next couple, 2 to 3 years. Because after that, I'm not really sure how much more left he has. But it's going to be very interesting. We're going to see within these next few years, is Lomachenko someone all in all that is going to be remembered as an all-time great fighter? Or is he going to be just another very all-time great talent who is going to make the Hall of Fame, but maybe all in all did not get as many big wins as maybe overall what you would have liked in his career? Someone maybe like a Guillermo Rigondeaux or an Adonis Stevenson or someone like that. Someone that, was a very, very great fighter and to a certain degree, at least at times, avoided. But, we'll see overall what he ends up doing within the next couple of years within his career. But best of luck overall to both fighters. I have Vasyl Lomachenko winning this by unanimous decision. I just think that his defense and I think that his movement will be a little bit too much for Jamaine Ortiz, who seems to have a little bit of a leaky defense in my opinion, and sometimes seems to be a little bit too wild with his own combinations for his own good. And I think that Lomachenko's experience and I think that his skill set and his boxing intelligence will more than likely show through. But this is not an easy fight for anyone at the 135-pound division. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. But anyways, that's really about it for today. Let me know overall what you think of the fight and who you think is going to win and why. And that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.